Hello and welcome back to the Chance Cube, where we are continuing to look at the fallout from Galactic Championships. We've already had a look on the channel at the best performing decks, the ones that did really well, got into top 8. We looked at the kind of matchup spread across the weekend, the conversion rates, all that kind of stuff. So if that's what you're interested in, then go check that out. We're looking at a very specific issue today that is very, very central to Patrick especially, and myself. We both enjoy playing Green Villainy, but when it comes to Green-Blue Villainy, you don't get much more excited. I've never seen anyone more excited to play this colour combo than when I sit opposite Patrick, who is a long-time Kira player. He's played some Krennic as well. And we find ourselves at an interesting point in the game where, for the first time, it could be easy to look at the performance of some decks at the Galactic Championship and think, oh, is Green-Blue Villainy no longer an S-tier colour combo? It's kind of this interesting juncture point for the pairing. So how are you feeling about it right now, Patrick?
I think that's a really interesting point, actually. If you're thinking about a tier list, if we were one of those people who did tier lists, where would green, blue, black come? And yeah, I think it probably would have fallen off its S tier perch, And I think that's probably the first time I would have said that in quite a few sets at the very least. So yeah, and I think it's just we can no longer outvalue these mid-range decks, sadly. We don't have these 2-for-1s that are available as freely, or we die by the time we get to our normal endpoint. We don't have the stabilizing turns, are no longer as stabilizing. You're still a bit wobbly. You're on more damage on the base, and you're constantly fighting this uphill battle. So I'm worried about. I would feel worried, about taking, say, the list that I went to Cheltenham with in the last season. I think I'd be very worried running that back in a tournament at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw that was also really the story of people who went to Worlds, because it did not show up particularly strongly on day 3. If you want to look at more of the breakdown of day 1 and day 2, like I said, the other video is the place to go. But we saw 2.4% of decks on day. Sorry, this was on day 1. On the screen, I said if you want to go look at it, go do it. But I put it on the screen, so we say it anyway. On day 2. It was, just not in the top 10 at all, Kira, that is. And then the conversion rate moving into day 3, again, not there. And actually, we didn't even see Kylo Ren, ECL, or Data Vault show up that strong, which was the way that we thought. People did take those decks, by the way, but they just didn't perform as well as we were expecting to. And actually, the deck that did the best in this color combo was actually Iden Data Vault. All of those versions of the lists, they're all very different to each other. And I was saying to Patrick before we came on, do you think that we're in a world now where Green, Blue, Black is having a mild identity crisis, and it maybe just needs to re-evaluate itself to basically adapt to the meta and then come back stronger? Is that what you feel like it is right now?
100%, because you look at the blue, green, black decks that have or did turn up at the tournament, and you have got your Kylo Data Bolts, you've got your Gar Saxons, obviously got the Kira's still turned up, but like you said, that the deck that kind of came out on top was this Iden Versio deck. And again, when we look at the scale of control to aggressive decks, blue, green, black can fit anywhere along that quite nicely, I think. Maybe it's not going hard aggro. It's not going to be a Sabine or a Vader anytime soon. But it can play this sort of mid-range deck where it can be the aggressor if it has to be. And then you've got, all the way up to these much more hard control decks, which is the deck that kind of did the best out of all of these. So yeah, I think with the meta that we were expecting, a Tarkin Town meta, a Han Solo meta, a Force Throw meta, well, why don't you just not play any creatures? I think that's basic. No units. That's just the best way around. Force Throw is fine. You're going to make me discard a card, but you're not going to get any of that secondary value off it, because what are you going to hit?
Yeah, nothing on the board. I mean,
there's nothing on the board.
That seems to. Well, weirdly, we talked about maybe Palpatine was going to be the way to go, because we thought that was where Green, Blue, Black was heading, and it turns out it kind of was heading in that direction. It was just not in the shell we expected, which is really, really interesting.
I think the leader was basically the thing that was different, but in my mind, this Iden Versio deck was basically what I think I would had something similar with regards to Palpatine. I think maybe you do kind of have to play a few more draw cards because you're probably playing Colossus, so you need a few more ways of getting cards in hand. But other than that, the idea of just playing a lot of removal and kind of avoiding the playing anything until 7-8 resources, that sounds like my kind of deck.
Yeah, that sounds very familiar indeed. Well, we're going to have a look at some of the lists from the weekend that were in this color combo, because I think they tell the story quite nicely about how the shell is different based on that leader, with some more specifics basically. And
Yeah,
there were three of this color combo in the top 40, which even that stat in and of itself is nuts to me
it's
when you
crazy. Yeah,
consider that blue green black has just been, and when I say boogeyman, I mean that as a compliment. I love that kind of deck of Star Wars for some time. And it was we had a Kira in 40th, which actually we probably should say, like, well done, like, how did you manage that? We're going to look at how they managed that in a minute. We had a Gar Saxon ECL in at 30th, and then, like we mentioned, Iden Data Vault came in at 18th. So let's
yeah.
move on to the lists themselves then, and we're going to kind of move upwards. So we're going to end with Iden. We're going to keep you guys in suspense of how exactly it was done. So yeah, this is the Kira Data Vault list. Many of the things in this list remind me of playing Patrick many a time in set 4 for sure. With your Death Troopers and your Pershings, your Avengers, Super Laser Techs. So a lot of stuff here is really normal. What's new is things like the Eighth Brother. Which is nice. It's kind of like an earlier Vader. Tech in there, nice meta call, I think, as well. The Eye of Sion as a one of, an interesting one there. And I think they're kind of the main new addition. So basically, what I'm sort of leading you in on, Patrick, is what is different about this Kira deck compared to what it was doing before that has probably helped it just about. Well, I say just about. It came 40th in a 2,000 player event in a world where this meta is very hostile to Kira. So
Yeah.
these cards must have done some heavy lifting.
Yeah, I think it's more just shoring up the ground as much as possible, trying to clear things out the way, trying to get as many of those 2-for-1s. I think that's what we're trying to talk about here is value play. So Tech having ambush, got 5 toughness, probably going to survive. It will survive into a Kaede Mundi, for example. It was, we're just looking for these sort of positive trades where you can kind of remove a unit and then your opponent has to think, well, I've got to either remove this unit now, so it's become a 2-for-1 for you, or you just get a freebie where this 5-power unit kind of gets to stick around. The ambush, yes, you don't have a way of using the secondary ability with the Eighth Brother, but just having, like you said, this ambusher that comes down a turn earlier than Vader. Eighth Brother into Vader on the next turn is immensely powerful because you probably are clearing up the board. And again, you're looking at this toughness of your units to try and stick around as much as possible. And I think from what I did see, it kind of ended up being a bit of a later deploy a lot of the times with Akira, where you kind of are getting the value, which sometimes you forget about, that Kira heals all your units first. So it kind of does take that damage off, so you can maybe get into the fight again a little bit. And the odd even toughness, I think that makes sense, or the odd numbered, so 7s, 5s, that sort of thing on your toughness, kind of helps you a little bit there, where you can heal up, hopefully, and then not take as much back.
Yeah.
But I think it would be an uphill battle. I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head there, though. It's not going to be easy. There's just way more ambushes in this deck now.
Yeah. I think you make an excellent point about when you deploy the Kira flip, because I think that probably is, that's where the dial is just edging into a different direction, because you've said many a time in the past few weeks when we've done these episodes about, and we've touched on Kira because you've played it so often, is that Kira flip on 5 with an OB probably isn't clearing as much as it was before, and so instead of using her flip to be an OB, using her flip to you hit with all your units, get some big damage on your big units, probably because you're hitting things with lightsabers on them, and using it to heal rather than as an OB thing is. I find that really insightful as someone who's not played that much Kira, because I look at this and think, Vader's Eighth Brothers, that's the difference.
No.
But clearly it's the timing of the flip as well, which is very very interesting. So if you are still trying to play Kira right now, this is a good list, but it doesn't tell you when to deploy. Only
Yeah.
our good friend Patrick Stewart could do that for us.
I think the timing intervention really helps as well. So um, another card that really wasn't being played much beforehand. But again, it's all about just trying to get as much value as possible from your units.
Well, you can't really play that new Darth Vader without ambush, in my
You
opinion.
can't. Yeah, I
Um,
completely agree. I completely agree.
it's so
Which
so
is
good.
why I don't love it in Data Vault. Not gonna lie, but I guess you do just have to. It's a 6 card package. If you're playing Vader and you're not playing ECL, you're actually Vader just takes up 6 spaces instead of 3.
Yeah, and I suppose it's still value if you can get it put to pop off, because if you can get it's a two. I mean, it's a 2 for 2 with the timely, but
Yeah,
you might potentially, it's a 7 resource play that might deal with like 9 to 10 resources worth of stuff. So
yeah,
um, it is value in the way that you described, so you can't not run it really. I
no,
think these are the sorts of lists that will get more out of Vader than the new Anakin. I have come around. I initially thought Vader was the best card from the new set, but I think we're all agreed now that the new Anakin is just so much more applicable to so many situations. The Vader here has one job: it needs to be in your hand when you have timely in your hand or timely in your resources. Like, that's
yeah,
his job. He doesn't really have any other situations where he's going to be useful. So even then, it might break you. So that could potentially be an issue.
yeah,
Could be a resourcing thing as well. So many skill points here, basically, that are based around that value. So going to be hard. Going to be hard to run this list. We'll move on to the Gar Saxon one then, which is an ECL list. This one came in 30th, and again, there's lots of things you'd expect to see here. Things with shields on. I'm pretty sure this had there was some amazing plays with the Shuttle ST-149, because it's an ambusher for 4 attack in this particular list, because of course it is +10 because it has a shield on play, and therefore basically is spot removal. You go,
yeah.
that thing's dead, and oh, by the way, I now have a 3/4 on the board that when it dies I can move a shield from somewhere else or whatever. Incredible play there. Timely's in there as well, just to kind of, I think any ECL deck should have timely as well, because you
Oh,
want good ambushers.
redundancy.
Yeah,
Yeah, you want redundancy.
you need good ambushers in
So
there. So yeah.
it's just going to touch upon the shuttle there. Taking a shield off Krennic. So if you go Krennic into shuttle, I watched this Gar Saxon. It was Rob. He played it against a Kazuda. Was it Kazuda? I think it was
Yeah, I
Kazuda
think it
red deck.
was. Yeah.
And he was really worried. He was like, "Look, this matchup is actually really bad for me unless I go Krennic shuttle," which he did 3 times in a row.
Yeah, it was crazy,
Um,
wasn't it?
and just putting 2 shields on the shuttle, so basically going Krennic and then next turn shuttle, taking Krennic's shield, means that you remove the space unit and you now still have a shield, so you can freely remove another space unit later on. It was, yeah.
And it's the Krennic ability as well that brings that into play, because obviously the
Yeah,
shuttle costs 4, the Krennic costs 2. That curve is so good because it's overstatted anyway, but then you combine it with the ECL and you probably sat there with 2 units and your opponent doesn't have any. Or
yeah.
maybe has 1, which is great. ECL also, I mean, again, this is nothing new to people really, but ECL fantastic for Anakin, because you can come down -3, one thing, so that dies, and then it then crashes into something else. ECL with the Vader, we've already discussed, is very very good. ECL with the General Grievous, it's a 3 cost
Yeah.
4/4. You're never getting that ability off. You don't care about the lightsaber thing. You just care about stats. Again, that's what this is trying to achieve, is just some value at a different part of the curve. It's
Yeah.
trying to get control of the game much earlier on, because it's very happy to use ECL on turn 2, basically. And that can be all you need sometimes. There was a few people playing this list.
Yeah.
This is the guy
It
who
did
played it
well.
the best. But you've talked about running something like this. Would you like this? Where do you think it stands? Do you think it's
Yeah,
gonna have a bit
I
of a
think it's
chance?
still. I think Gar Saxon's another deck where, if your opponent isn't ready for it, or if they haven't played into Gar, you will just get steamrolled by all these overstated units. It's only a point, but that point messes with the math so much so. So I still think I'm definitely going to be running Gar Saxon ECL. I think the Owen must be there for kind of force throw help, where you're just thinking, fine, I'm just going to throw this in the bin. That was the only one where I was a bit like, I guess it has a nice when defeated, nice when defeated ability. So I guess with Krennic, it is free, so I guess that is something.
Hmm.
The Knight of Ren, actually, I
Oh, yeah.
think the Knight of Ren had Craving Power on it, and I'm sorry, that is like a 7/6 is
But the best part
kind.
is,
Oh,
isn't it just a General Grievous?
it's a General Grievous, but
That's what's
so
cool.
apparently, yeah, apparently I think he talked about it on an interview where he was like he's running a 2-1 split because Grievous is you don't want to be drawing too many Grievouses because they're unique. So
Yes, yeah.
it's just nice to have a non-unique version.
That
Um,
costs 2p, and
yeah,
I've already got about 12 copies of.
yeah, I got a PlayStation of Hyperspace one, so they'll
Oh,
be run
nice.
out.
Well, I love that in card games when you have two cards
Run.
that cost so much different because of
Yeah,
something about them, but actually they're the same card. So like the Naboo N1 Starfighter is everywhere right now, and if you want to
yeah,
play that stat line in Red Villainy, you got to go and spend £16 on a Kylo TIE silencer.
yeah.
So I loved seeing the Knight of Ren because it just kind of it's one of those funny idiosyncrasies about card games. So I did enjoy that, and again, just a fantastic ECL opportunity on turn two
Oh,
that's going to live. So
yeah,
why not?
yeah. It wielded a hot shot blaster so well as well. It really does wield a hot shot blaster very well.
That's the sequel trilogy would have been much better if we'd got to see that. I have to say.
It wouldn't, but let's move on.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
It would not. So let's just
I've got one quick question before we do go on to the item list, which is
yeah.
this Gar list to
Mm,
me is trying to wrestle control of the game around the same time that Mother Towson is trying to wrestle
yeah,
control of the game, and arguably the Kylo Tarkin Town as well, with some of those early value plays of ping plus Tarkin Town, or put something big on something small like a lightsaber on a Witch of the Mist, for example. Um, the fact that Mother Towson can basically debuff you below your shields, is that a
yeah.
possible disadvantage here? Like if this was
Oh
to run into a Mother Towson, where do you see that game going?
well,
Um,
I think we did see, and I think that is how it went down. Which is, you know what, shields or what can't protect you is these debuffs. You know, the shields are useless against these debuffs. So, um, yes, having a shield is very powerful, but I think Mother Towson, more than any, is probably a list that you play very differently with Gar Saxon because you either do try and put the foot on the throat and go aggressive, kind of try and go under Mother Towson, almost like get enough damage on the base before you get to that midpoint. And then you're hoping to just win with like a Vader or an Anakin, and you only need it to do one or two things. Um, because I think if you're just trying to outvalue and trade off here, I don't know if Gar can go toe to toe with a Towson.
Which and it would probably have to because, like we
Yeah,
say, that lots of people are going to be trying that, and so that probably means that if you are looking at the current meta as it was the weekend just gone and thinking, well, is there a version of villainy that I feel like can do well into Towson? Well, like we said earlier, maybe it's a list that doesn't care about unit to unit value. It's a list that just cares about killing stuff, getting to the late game with Snokes, Avengers, Devastators, Annihilators. Keeps the game at a decent pace in terms of health because of vigilance, for example. You can fit all of these things in. Entrench all of the hard control stuff. That's what we saw in this Iden list, which is we have been talking about. Also, copies of calculated lethality and crushing blow as well, which is just this list does not care about playing anything other than big spaceships and kill spells, right? So that's probably how we're gonna
and
have to play it.
that's probably how you're going to play. Exactly, to the words right out of my mouth. We're playing Vanquish. We are literally just scraping the barrel of all the things that say, destroy a unit. That is what we're playing here. You're playing Merciless Conviction because you don't, is that Merciless?
Oh,
Did I get
merciless
it right?
contest. Yeah, merciless
Merciless
contest.
Contest. That's
Yeah.
Merciless Contest. Sorry. You're not playing the early game that you're used to playing in Blue Green Heresy. I mean, that we don't see a Dr. Pershing anywhere here. And while that does hurt my soul a little bit, I think that is the decision you have to make where you're just going, heaven forbid I have to place against Vader, heaven forbid I have to place against a Sabine, because that isn't going to go well. If I get any of these mid-range decks, I'm feeling all right.
It does seem very good into mid range because it just
Yeah,
has so many things that kill one thing. So I mean, a merciless contest in a deck where you're playing no units is just you're running 6 copies of power at this point. Vanquish is mostly a way of playing 6 Rivals Falls, because
Yeah,
obviously you can't get a leader with it, but Rivals Fall will get that later, or maybe Power of the Dark Side already snagged the leader. Mid-range decks that basically play one thing a turn hate control decks. I mean, some people listening to this, probably that's completely normal information they already knew. But if you're watching this and you're relatively new to card games, that was one of my hardest lessons I learned when I started playing card games. Was I like playing mid-range decks, and then when I play control deck, it's like, oh, you played that card that kills a unit of my choice. Oh, I have one. Oh, I guess I'll
yeah,
kill this one then. That's very common to card games generally. So it really does prey on those. And because mid-range has done so well, aggro probably isn't going to be around as much next week if you're
yeah.
taking this on a week-to-week basis, basically. So, and some of the things are just good, like value. They cost 3. Like Entrenched, I think, costs 3.
Yeah.
Perilous Position costs
First
3 as
position.
well. So,
Yeah, I think it's a
yeah,
great deck, and I think you're obviously playing the Bounty Hunter crew to kind of renew the stuff. And I wouldn't be surprised if this deck was on the mill plan a lot of the time as well, which is just vigilance your opponent until they have no cards in their deck, which is an ulterior win mode.
yeah, restock as
Win
well,
method.
like you
Yeah,
said.
yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah, main deck restock.
you could easily play Vigilance 5 times, basically, and that's
Oh
going to
yeah.
mill
Well, and
30 cards.
not only that, you've got 5 board wipes in this deck because they're playing 2 Nebula Ignitions as
Of
well.
course. Yeah.
So being able to renew those with Bounty Hunter crew as well. Um, yeah, this deck seems miserable for some people, but I think this is the way that blue green villainy is kind of tipping its way towards. You've just got the Devastators, you've got the Avengers, you've got Annihilator, Snoke, Reinforcement Walker. That is your end game. You're going to hit twice with these big things, and that is
Game's
going to be
gone.
the game.
Yeah.
Game's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like seeing 3
That,
Snokes as well, because like a lot of the
yeah.
time he was like a 1 of or a 2 of, and I just think that unit ability is so cool. So to see
Yeah.
someone just lean into it and be like, do you know what, like that's how I'm going to win this game, is just like Super Laser Blast, slam down a Snoke, and then it's going to be an Avenger, then it's going to be a Devastator. I don't really know how mid-range decks come back from that. Maybe we see some more hand hate from the mid-range decks. Some of them maybe main decking Pillage instead of just having it in their sideboard or something like that, because especially if this list isn't running Pershing, or maybe the response from that is people running this go, maybe I need a Pershing because they're going to try and hit my hand. But those are subtle changes. For the most part, this package is probably going to have a good week next week. I mean, I never like you to accidentally tell us what we're going to play on Friday in case everyone in our group chat watches and goes, oh, Patrick's going to bring hard control. But can you see yourself maybe sleeving this up at some point?
I mean, most of it's already sleeved up already, David.
Oh,
So
that's true.
makes my life a bit easier. If it gets to Thursday night and I'm panicking, well, I only have to swap out like 8 or 9 cards. So who knows?
Well, people in Dark Star, you heard it here first. Patrick has the ability to play blue, green, black. What a surprise.
Yeah, to the shock of nobody. But I do. I mean, you touched upon Snoke there very, very quickly. I'm surprised more of these Townsend decks didn't run Snoke. I know it's side tangent here slightly, but Snoke, even in the sideboard, I think it's got to be worth a try with Townsend. Just making it much easier to remove stuff with the debuff.
Yeah, because their 8 cost turn was a lot of Devastators.
Yeah,
Because I think
Devastators.
the people who were running Townsend were kind of going for they're going for a game plan that was control the game in the early stages against some decks, and then just go bang, bang, bang. Now I've
Yeah.
won.
I wouldn't be surprised if Vader becomes a lot more, these spaceship decks become a lot more prevalent, and you've just kind of survived in the early game.
Yeah.
Slam a Snoke.
If the meta
Drops together.
shifts in
Yeah.
such a way where Townsend decks actually can't afford to be greedy, because a Devastator is always a greedy play unless you're playing Piet, in which case it's a curve play. Most of the time it's a greedy game-ending play that can even possibly be win more, whereas Snoke is a very defensive play, and that doesn't have to be a bad thing. Sometimes you need a defensive play. So I would love the idea of this card being played more, because I just think all of the things around it are really cool.
Yeah.
Especially even down to the things that can afford to kill it and get away with it. A lot of them are like have something to do with Kylo Ren in terms of just maths. So I love this card. I think it's very, very cool. So
it messes the math up, like you said. I think that's the most important thing about it. Opponent thinks it's got lethal. Snoke, a couple of turns away from it now.
yeah, absolutely. And then they have to deal with it. It just means that once a deck like this throws down a Snoke, the aggressive deck is like, I need to sink X amount of resources into this that will slow me down in enough time for my opponent to play an Avenger, play a Devastator, and now I've lost.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to see that. So yeah, so that is what Green Blue Black is looking right now. You know, is it out of the meta? A little bit right now. I think we have to say yes in inverted commas, because it had a weekend, a big weekend as well, where it didn't perform as well as it usually did. But we think that maybe it's just going through a transition and may well be back at the top tables in a big way in a few weeks' time, with people having learnt lessons from those three lists. I mean, I love the fact that of the three lists that made the top 40, they were each a different type that were trying to play a different game. And
Yeah.
by the fact that they finished in the order that they did, with the Kira in 40th, Gara in 30th, and Aiden in 18th, they were able to basically rank themselves as well in terms of meta relevancy. So it's really helpful data when you sort of go through and look through the specifics, isn't it?
I think the healing of Aiden can't be, because I think out of all of them, Aiden probably has the weakest deploy, but she kind of has the most relevant ability at the moment, if that makes sense. Like just being able to heal a bit of damage. So you're getting your 2-4 in that way. You're removing your opponent's unit. Yes, it's costing you a card, but you're also going to heal a bit. So I do think that's probably also why Aiden was a little bit better than the others at the moment. Because ultimately, you can put any blue leader and have a control deck, but you kind of want a reason to do that. And I think just getting it's only a little bit of health, but a little bit of health often adds up.
I mean, there's probably some maths we probably could have done, which I'm going to do on the fly now, right? Which is like every single kill spell in this list effectively adds 1 point of health to Data Vault, right?
Yeah.
So like you're almost playing like a 45 health base or whatever in theory. So which you have to do in a world where Kylo can hit big, you know, the Towson deck can hit big with lightsabers on some big creatures, for example. So we didn't really talk about that, did we? We didn't talk about the differences between the leaders. I mean, they're kind of implicit in the list design,
implicit,
but yeah.
But yeah, for the actual choosing your leader, I think Aiden's a great choice. And when she deploys, having that shield and her ability not being a one-time thing, if you can get her to stick around for a few turns and remove 2 or 3 things while she's out, yeah, she's not going to be winning you the game like Kylo is. You're only doing 4 damage. But she can kind of get sometimes a 2-for-1 because she can take out 2 things because she has a shield. And hopefully at that point, you're getting at least 2-3 health from removing your opponent's stuff. And that makes all the difference. So many of the games this weekend ended with 1 or 2 points being the difference in health amongst the bases. So just having a little bit of health restore, key.
Yeah, really, really big. I love games like that. And you're always going to get it with Blue Green Villainy, which is why I've always enjoyed playing it. I've always enjoyed watching you play it. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we can see a reinvented colour pairing in the next couple of weeks. Well, that brings us to the end of this slightly shorter video. We're trying a few different things, as you guys know. New channel, we want to try, does this work? Does that work? Let us know in the comments if you'd like the shorter, more succinct kind of focus on one issue. Perhaps if you want these episodes to be 2 hours long, let us know. Put it in the comments and we will...
I could do it.
Yeah, we absolutely could as well.
I could do this.
Yeah. Outside of that, don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it. Hit the subscribe button as well, bell notification so that you don't miss anything. If you prefer podcast versions, you can find us on Spotify. Go and subscribe over there and rate our podcast as well, because that helps aggregate us as well. So all the buttons you're supposed to press, just go make like R2D2 and press them all, and that will help us out as we move on. And yeah, let us know your thoughts on the list. What if you play a Blue Green Black? What are you playing right now? Stick it in the comments, and we will hopefully aggregate enough comments in the future. We might even be able to have a comment section in our videos. So we will see. We will see.
Until next time.
Until next time, guys. May the force be with you, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.